Friends, welcome to the Canadian Sugar Bush. Over the years, I've made a bunch of different videos about making maple syrup and maple sugar, etc. But this one here is by far the most comprehensive in terms of the process. So if you're interested in how it's done on a small scale and all the time and effort that goes into it, this is definitely the video you want to watch. Now, this video is a little bit on the longer side, so get comfortable, get yourself a drink, and welcome to my neighborhood this time of year. Making maple syrup is a rite of passage here in Canada, and everybody and their uncle's making it right now. This is how it's done. And can you read what it says on that tap? Yeah, that's right, Canada, bitches. So I started tapping trees and collecting maple sap in the old steel buckets, and it was a pain in the ass. It worked, of course. I have friends that still do it that way to this day. And then I changed over to, I don't know if I have any right here. Yeah, I do. I changed over to these sort of food grade plastic buckets, and that was a lot better, but you still had to haul it. What's better, much better, are these poly lines that I'm currently trying to untie with all the weight on it. But this has changed my syrup game, like in such a profound way. I'm just tapping trees, running the sap all the way down to sort of collection points. Some right literally to my little boil rig, and I don't have to haul it as much anymore, and that's made a massive difference. This is for collection. You can see we're collecting some sap in here. And there's my stack of buckets. This top one has, like the bit that I need, 7/16 I'm using. Most people are going down to 5/16, but just all my stuff is already at that level. So one day I'll replace it, but for now, I just need a few of these. So I've got all that stuff, but I need a few old school buckets because I have some trees that, I can't really feed a gravity line to or from. So no, I need more than that. Anyway, I'll grab a few more of those and then just start getting a little kit together, including my drill and other stuff for tapping. And there's some lids for those old school buckets. And this stuff all gets washed and rinsed at the end of the sugaring season. But, throughout the winter, dust collects, etc. You can see down in the bottom. They all need a little rinse with the hose, so I'm going to do that first. My lines are already cleaned out. They get religiously cleaned out at the end of the season. Like I get pressurized water and push it all the way through there and get all the sugar out of them. So those should be, in theory, good to go. But this stuff all needs a rinse. And that's all I need to get started with those buckets. I got a drill here with a fresh battery, couple spares. You do run through them quick. Got a little hammer to tap those spiles in. And, this thing just full of a few bits and bobs, if you know what I mean. All right, you see these three trees on the shoreline here? There's one giant sugar maple. There's two big sugar maples, and there's three big sugar maples. I think I'm going to start by tapping those first. Me and this big old mama here are old friends, man. You wouldn't believe how much sugar has come out of some of these trees every single year. Hey, there it is. Up there it is. Let me bring it in to show you. Look at her dripping down. That's our first hole of the 2025 sugaring season. And that's right where it comes from. Oh yeah, she's running good. That was a good hole. All right, there's our spile, but there's a bunch of sawdust in that hole. It's a really good habit to just grab a little twig. I just literally grabbed this off the ground and snapped it to the right length. And it's good to just sort of clean that stuff out a little bit. It can clog up your spiles. It doesn't happen very often. They sort of have a habit of cleaning themselves out. But if you just get it started right, you're not gonna have any issues and you don't have to think about it for the entire season, pulling them and cleaning them or anything. And I think I've got most of the little bits that I don't want out of there. All right, this is exciting, man. First one of the season. And these are pretty old. You can see the top where I would normally be hammering this on is already been smoked right off it. So I'm gonna try to be careful and not wreck it and go really slowly to get that tap in. Yeah, I think we're good. All right, let's check how a bucket's gonna hang on there. Want it straight. Okay, I think we're in business. We're just waiting for the spile to fill up, but oh, here she comes. Look. Yes. Am I right? All right, this big old girl is big enough to accommodate 2 taps. Look at that flowing immediately. I love that. It's just throwing sap out at me. And these ones with the buckets on them have to be in really good because they're holding all that weight. Check it out. Like when this thing gets full, it's pounds and pounds and pounds of sap. Moving on to this guy here. And this is a really, really good producer too. Gets amazing sun all day long, as you can imagine. Southern exposure right on the lake. Beautiful. And I'll be trying to get the buckets mostly on that side of it. I just got to bring them over. You can't see it, but there's a ton of sap flowing out of this tree, man. Yeah, these trees down the front, they get sun all day long. Look at that. It's already gushing, man. That's awesome. There it is. We're good. Hey, buddy. There we go. All right. There it is. Now, this great big monster leaner out in front of the house here hasn't been tapped in a few years. She doesn't produce that well. Despite being a massive tree, I could probably put 3 taps into this tree. I think I have in the past, but it doesn't get great sun and it doesn't always flow as well as I'd like it to, but I'm going to give it another shot. She's had a rest for a few years and that's important to give them a rest sometimes, especially with a big old tree like this that's really been tapped. So I'm going to give her a shot. I'm going to throw a couple in. Maybe she changed her attitude, who knows? Well, now that one's hanging a little funny, but once it gets a little sap in it, that'll straighten itself out. All right, well, it's the next day and it's snapping down really, really cold. We've got a high of -2 today and it's going down to -17 tonight. So it's kind of good. It should slow that flow down and give me this afternoon to get all those taps in that I didn't get in yesterday. And now I'm headed straight up to the top of this hill here to put in my first poly line with 4 big giant mama maple trees on it. That's gonna come all the way down here to the driveway. And here we are at the top of the hill. Time to get her going, man. All I gotta do is unravel that. All right, the partial unraveling of this line has begun, and now I just gotta start putting holes in this tree and picking a good spot. That looks about as good as any, right about there, I'd say. Yeah, I like it. Okay, we'll let that one sit and see how she goes. Now, I'm gonna be multi-tapping these trees. These are big old trees. I can put at least 2 spiles on all of these, and there's one at the bottom I can even put 3 spiles on, which is pretty wicked. But anyway, it's 2 on here. That looks about due south to me right there, buddy. Right there. Gonna start cleaning those out. This guy's not rolling particularly well here, but it will shortly, I believe. And like I said, on these days where we have temperatures where the high of the day is still in the minuses, the flow is drastically reduced and can stop altogether. Now, if you're not coming over from my Instagram and you haven't seen this type of poly line before, you're not familiar with it, it's very, very simple. There's the spile, right? This is the bit that goes into the tree. Then you've got the line and a few splitters, okay? And some of those have a little spacer to keep them off the tree. This guy's going in here. You want the spile facing down, you want it to run out. And there you go, there's one. I put another one right here. Let's have a look, get her straight. Boom, tapped. All right, you can see that unfurled line, lay it on the snow there, and it's not gonna stay down there. We're gonna always elevate the line up off the floor. You can kind of freeze your lines and really limit the flow of your sap if you leave them down. I'll show you that as we go along. But I'm headed down to that next big maple tree right there. It's gonna look something like this once I get the holes in. All right, I'm just measuring out this poly line. I want that relatively straight and always on a downward angle. The sap will pump itself up the line, but it slows down the whole process. It's better if you can keep a grade on it all the way down. So I'm just sort of like eyeballing that. I'm looking for a good spot on that side. I'm gonna get my divider right there. This guy I feel like is gonna be a little higher, perhaps. I'm trying to get them both on the south side of the tree, and that actually looks pretty good. Voila. And here's the first tap on tree number 2. We're growing. A little twigsky. Beautiful. That's ready to rock. All right, and now the whole show headed down the hill. And I got to unravel this as I go. And it's going to be a little difficult. It always is. And I got to find little spots to put it up so it stays elevated and doesn't freeze on the ground. Well, that was a pain in the ass. All right, and there's our little guy. That's about midway down this run. I've already got a little spot mapped out. Right there, looks pretty awesome. Oh, and that little guy's actually kind of running already. That's great. Good job, little buddy. Done. And now I just got to run all the rest of this poly line through that deadfall, which is awesome because it keeps it up off the ground, which is what I want so it doesn't freeze. That's probably a bit too high. But you see how I'm using all this little scrubby stuff and dead branches and deadfall, etc., to keep the line off the ground? It's a really important point. And now we're talking about this great big old mama here. You can see there's 1, 2, 3 spiles that I can put in. Now, last year I gave her a break. I only put in 2. This year I'm running super late on the whole thing. I've missed almost half the season, so I am actually going to triple tap her. And that's the last big mama on this big, giant entire line. And then follow that line all the way down. It ends up at that receptacle right there down on my driveway. And that's a really easy pickup point for collection to get to the boil rig. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, killer, that's all tapped in. And now all the rest of that line just has to run down the hill. And we're on to the next one, but the first line is in. All right, awesome. Now we're down at the bottom. All I got to do is throw a couple clothespins on here, one on the outside. And then there's a lot of tension on this line. I'm actually going to put 2 on the inside like this. And then I can throw the lid on, and all 4 of those trees are going to drain right down into this giant receptacle. All right, I got the lid on. And you can see I had to prop up an old piece of board against it to hold this thing up until the sap's in there, until the sap starts flowing in. Oh, maybe a day or so. Day after tomorrow, I think it's going to start. It's quite cold tonight and tomorrow. And there's some weight in this thing. It's going to want to pull over. There's a lot of tension on that line, so that board's going to hold it where it needs to be until that time. Let's go get the next line in. All right, here's line number 2, and we're going way up that hill. Okay, that's looking all right. Let's clean her out. And this looks like as good a spot as any for spot number 2. Now I gotta run this poly line down to the next tree. Hey, it even still got some western sun on there. Pretty good. Yeah, you're good, bud. All right, check it out. I got that line all pulled. It's all up off the ground so it won't freeze. Up and all that stuff all the way down over my tank and into the receptacle where it's going to end up. And now both of those trees are going to be pumping into there. Beautiful. Just need a couple clothes pegs. All right, there's a couple down and just a couple more to go. I'm not running every single line that I have this year. I'm already kind of late. My objective, just to let you know this year, is just to get a little sugar. Well, not a little. I'm going to do pounds of it if I get the flow, but we'll see, man. I'm late. And the important thing is just get some lines in, start collecting, and hopefully end up with a little bit of sugar for the rest of the year. All right, big line number 3 is going in, and it's right up this hill, and it's 4 great big giant maple trees all the way up there. And can you read what it says on that tab? Yeah, that's right, Canada, bitches. Beautiful. All right, that receptacle is pinned in, and she's nice and elevated all the way along the line. All right, and the last line I got to put in today is just to a single tree up the hill right behind my little boil station. I think it's just 2 taps, but it's worth it. All right, that last little line is in and not a moment too soon. We're almost out of light. And that's all looking pretty good. Now, this mess right here is all gonna get dialed in. There's a tarp that's gotta go up. There's a wood pile that's gotta be built up, etc. But it's not time for that. I gotta collect a whole bunch, so I'll be back at you whenever that happens and things warm up and the sap starts to flow. Guys, fast forward like 10, 12 days from the last time I checked in on syrup when it was freezing cold and it wasn't running. In the meantime, we had an insane ice storm, freezing rainstorm. I have been without power, heat, water, phone, internet, or anything for 7 days. And just now, I'm literally just getting the headspace to even think about maple syrup and sap collection because we had some warm days in the middle there. And I'm sure that there is a lot in the buckets. In fact, these ones here I can see are already overflowing. Look at this. I'll get in on that soon. You see all that? That's pure tree juice, baby. That's maple sap. And I have to start collecting and likely have to start boiling fast. Let me just show you close up what's been going on. Yeah, that's a whole lot of sweet, delicious. Oh yeah, it is sweet too. It's running good. Maple sap. Let's just check some of these little buckets that are lakeside. Yeah, that one's full, running nice and clear still. When it warms up, that sap will start to get cloudy. But let's have a look up through here. All right, how are these guys doing? These are south facing, full, okay. Not super full, and then there's a couple over there I want to check. But what I'm worried about is my big receptacles back there. Remember these guys? Let me try and zoom in for you. Those big giant ones back there are connected to a bunch of different trees. I think that particular one has 4 or 5 on it. And I have a bunch like that around the property, and that's a lot more sap running down. I hope they're not overflowing too. But just before I go and check all the big receptacles, I gotta empty these, man. They're like literally overflowing. I'm wasting sugar. All right, this is gonna be difficult. We're gonna try and spill as little as possible. Oh yeah, that's good and heavy. Okay, there we go. And now I gotta go put this somewhere. Carefuling. Now I have a much better collection method than this with the quad and different buckets with lids on them, etc. But I just don't have time. They're all overflowing. I'm gonna go put them in a larger receptacle and then start getting all that stuff set up. All right, I'm out at the other end. I've got a couple receptacles here. This one I just put out. I've got a few like that will likely fill up. I don't know about today or not. And then I've got some big ones. That one there is historically kind of a slow one. It's one smallish tree on there with just 2 taps. So it probably doesn't have anything in it, but I'm thinking just for weight reasons, I'm gonna pin this one down right now and start putting this sap away because I don't think, well, we'll see by the time, I don't think I'm gonna be able to start boiling now. It's getting late, we're losing light. Carefuling. Man, that little one's gonna fill up quick. This one here wasn't completely full, but it's worth dumping out. I think it's gonna start to run. That one's good and full. A few moments later, there's another one that was overflowing already. Ooh, I might just fit one more in there. And that's the last of those little ones down by the lake. But is it gonna overflow my shit? Oh, it's right up to the edge. Okay, I cannot put any more in there. Let's go check the big ones. This is the one I'm worried about. This has a lot of trees on it, and I'll bet you we can see it dripping if it's full. I don't see drips though. Hold on. Oh no, that's as full as it can be, so that sucks. Here's what I gotta do. I gotta take some out of that and maybe put in the other one so it can continue collecting until I can start boiling. All right, this guy's a multi too. I'm a little worried about that guy. Yeah, full right up and overflowing, not good. I gotta move some out of there. Now I've got 2 more like this further up in the bush. I'm not gonna bother showing you those. I gotta run up with the quad and check those, but there's one more we can walk to. Let's see what's happening with this guy. Oh no, no. What's going on, buddy? Hey. What's this? It came out. Oh no, I wonder if it was sitting on, like the ground was frozen. And look, that's what happened. It changed angles and the weight pulled it out. Oh man, how much sap has just been sitting there dripping out of there for freaking a week. God damn it. Is there anything in here? No. Ah, it was that big storm. And here's what was supposed to be happening the whole time for 10 days since the last time I had any time at all to check this or even think about it with the insane survival situation that was going on. But that's a lot of lost sap, man. You saw that big one, man. Well, I would have had that much, right? It would have been that full. So that's like 80 liters. That's 2 liters of syrup down the drain. I mean, it's good for the forest, right? Those nutrients and stuff. But man, I wanted it in my belly. Ah, man, that sucks. I already started super late this year because of ice fishing. There was a warm spell. Everything started flowing. I had no chance at all to get any taps in. So I'm starting late. I'm losing a bunch. And who knows how long it's going to hold on. Like, we've got minus nights and plus days for the next foreseeable future for like a week or so, which is what you need. You need minus nighttime lows and plus daytime highs. But once that gap starts getting bigger, the sap starts to run cloudy. We'll start seeing insects in the sap. I'll show you when that time comes. And usually it just stops being good for syrup or sugar production. So let's see what I get. I'm not feeling like I'm going to get a great ROI on all this effort this year, but I'm gonna try. All right, so here is my crude yet effective way of getting sap out of the big receptacles over to the boil area, and in this case to different storage because it's full. It's just taken out with sort of a ladle at a time. That's just a little soup pot there, a few liters at a time. These buckets fit, I think, 18 liters or 20 liters, and so at 20 liters. Think about it, 19 liters it says on the side. So think about this, 2 buckets that size boiled all the way down equals 1 liter of syrup, right? So there's a lot of work involved if you've never seen this process before, but this is how it's done on my property. Anyway, there are much more efficient ways of doing this, but I'm just totally ill-equipped and not set up because of all the conditions, flooding for a week, and then no power, nothing for a week, and just insanity, man. It's been insanity here, but I'm getting to it. I'm getting her done. That one's full. I'm gonna be taking 20 more liters out of there, 19, I guess, out of that. And then I have to go over to the other big receptacle, and that's gonna be it for tonight. But I'll tell you the nice thing about this method is that for an old guy with sciatica, it really lessens the weight that I got to carry. I do a ladleful at a time. Normally I would be moving these with the quad to save my back a little bit, but 19 liters, I don't know how heavy that is, but I barely feel it. It's just my back that I have to be careful of. So, I go like that, I fill her up with regular like that, and then it's not that bad on my back to carry. And I think that's enough room in there. Unless it really, really goes, I don't think it's gonna fill that up overnight. All right, yeah, that guy's overflowing too. That's connected to 4 trees. I'm probably gonna have to take a couple of buckets out of it. Maybe 20 liters would be enough. Let me see what it looks like and how much it's flown as we go along here. But that sucks, man. I wonder how long that's been overflowing. I've been so distracted with the flooding specifically, and my septic backing up, and no power, and trying to heat the house and everything. That was a lot, man. The ground is so soft, I'm smooshing everywhere. Old guy, sciatica, it's awesome. All right, that's what I can do for now. You can see we're running out of light. I've got, 80? I've got 140 liters stashed away there that I took out of the big ones and those buckets. I've got hundreds more in those big receptacles, so I really got to get this area dialed in. I got to start boiling so I can start keeping up with the flow. Sugar, sugar, do, 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 do. Oh, honey, honey, my girl. And finally, after weeks of collecting, it's go time. Getting the boil rig dialed in, getting the tarp up, getting wood organized, and lighting a fire at last. All right, the boil rig is more or less dialed in. Every single year is the same problem. The ground shifts, it freezes. It starts to thaw, it starts to shift. I'll be fighting this the entire time I'm boiling, and that's okay. It just kind of is what it is. I think if I get time, this is all getting redone in a more permanent fashion. I've been doing it this way 4 years in this kind of like semi-block rig with all this fire brick, and it's all a little, like, it works great, but it's a little janky. It's a little bit of a bitch to set up. I think that probably took me all told to set up the block part less than 10 minutes, so maybe it's not a big deal. But anyway, the long story short is, we're pretty much ready to boil. All I gotta do is start pulling these out, getting some freaking fuel in there, start stoking. I'll be stoking. And we're on the boil. Last thing I need to do is deal with this wood pile. I didn't really prep enough wood last year. I'm gonna be dipping into my like really good hardwood this year largely. I try to burn softwood and just I'll burn anything to make syrup really. But I don't have a ton. As you can see, that pile is really small. It's usually piled up so it's like holding up the tarp. I didn't get to it. I have lots of hardwood. I'm gonna burn it and I'll just have to chop more hardwood this year. But anyway, I gotta uncover all that and then see what's under there. Let's get burning. And hey, look at that. That's a nice surprise. I actually kind of remember doing this now. So my weird little janky offcuts from when I was processing wood in the springtime, and most of it's hardwood. I see a little bit of softwood. I've got softwood to split, which I'm gonna start doing like now. But the top of this is a little wet. That tarp wasn't really good. I don't think I'm gonna start by burning this. I'm gonna let that air out for a few days, but we're basically good to go here. All right, I got a little bit of dry-ish kindling. I don't have a whole lot of dry stuff right now. I'm just gonna stuff a bunch of birch bark under there. As such, like so. Get our pan back on. Get it burning. Okay, that's it. Now I use this old grill just for a little bit of extra support for the pan. You can tell it's been used for years. It's warped out of shape, etc. None of that matters. The important thing is I've got that bar there and a little bit of support in the middle. It doesn't really sag, but over time, I think it's going to make a big difference in the life of that pan. Let's get that on there. Looking good. And this is the most important step if you don't want to burn out your pan. You'll burn out your pan in like a minute, under a minute, literally 60 seconds if you burn it dry. So if you're new to this and you're just starting out or you're watching this because you want to learn how to make maple syrup, whatever you're boiling in, this is actually like a pan that's designed for maple syrup, but whatever you're boiling in, even if it's just a little pot or whatever, put some sap in before you start. All right, moment of truth. First burn of the year, man. It's exciting. You gonna make it down there, little buddy? Yeah, yeah. That birch bark's a little wet, but it doesn't matter. That is the beauty of birch bark. It'll burn wet. And it's on. This gets too hot. So walling her off. Now, this is a process I largely do with fire gloves on. You see these bad boys? You'll be seeing a lot of these as we go along because these bricks get really, really hot. But right now, they're cold as ice. Literally, there was ice on them when I started doing this. And I'm not gonna put that one on quite yet because I'm gonna need to feed it quite a bit. But eventually, this all gets blocked off, keeps all the heat in there. Getting a little smoky, so I blocked off one side, but I gotta be able to sort of continually stoke this. That'll do for now. And just while she's coming up to temp, I wanna show you the other problem I'm gonna have. You see this little piece of tin that's around the bottom of that stovepipe? Well, I normally actually have a proper L bracket that goes like this in there that extracts smoke. Well, that thing rotted out, man. I just found it all beat up. I didn't film it or anything. But because I don't have that and because I don't have a great seal because of that, there's gonna be a lot of smoke under the tarp for now. But when I go to town tomorrow or the next day, I'm gonna buy the piece that I need and just sort of like plumb that back in. But I don't love all that smoke coming right out of the back, man. I'm gonna be breathing that if I'm not careful. But hey, price you pay. And you know what? It makes the syrup taste a lot better when it gets a little bit smoky, which happens anyway, but this might be like super smoke syrup. Take you up here to show you what I'm talking about. You see that extraction pipe right there? There's still a lot of smoke coming out of it, but normally it's like pretty close to 100% of the smoke. None of it lingers around down there. I'm gonna get that piece soon and fix that, but it's doing a good job regardless. I'll take it for now. It's hard to see through all the smoke that's leaking currently, but I'm starting to see the first few little wisps of evaporation in there. I don't know if we'll be able to see it through all that smoke, but it's pretty exciting for a sugar maker. All right, friends, this is exciting. You see that? That's not smoke. The fire's getting hot. And what you're seeing there is our first signs of proper evaporation and a little tiny bit of a boil starting. Ah, it's exciting. First boil of the season. Look at all that water coming out. That's what we want. Couple hours later, and check out the evaporation station, just frickin' pumping, dude. It's time to go stoke that thing. I do like to see that, man. That's a happy sight. It's getting chilly out here tonight, -7. All right, let's crack this little guy, and then we got a stoker. That fire's getting low. I'm working away inside and not taking care of business. Oh yeah, lots of room. Lots of room. All right, she's rocking now. And this is the part I really like. Once everything's all set up and it's mostly dialed in, and even though it's -7 out tonight, it's like nice and warm. We got a roaring fire. We got a rolling boil. And I like just sitting here enjoying this. Just watching all that water go up, making sugar. And hey, guess what? It's time for our first skim. So I'll be doing this hundreds and hundreds of times as the process goes along. But let me show you, if you're new and you haven't seen this process before, see all that scummy stuff rising to the top? You got to keep taking that off as you go. And lots of little bits of leaves and forest detritus and bits of wood and stuff end up in there. And we're just constantly skimming that stuff out. All right, let's let that run. You can't, there's so much evaporation happening right now. You can't see. I'm letting the liquid drain out. And then I'm just gonna tap that off to the side. Rain will take that all off. And that just happens over and over again. And you try and cover the whole pan. And that's how you end up with a nice, clean product at the end. Man, I was working away in the grow room, and that's getting really low, like too low. I'm gonna pour all the rest of this one in, and it's getting late. Once I get down to that, that'll be 60 liters for my first boil. That's a very minimal boil, honestly. I can do hundreds of liters in a day sometimes, but yeah, that's way too low, man. Okay, now that's really gonna cool it down. She's gonna get one last stoke, and I think that's gonna be it for the night. But look, yeah, you can really see now that it's cooled down. That was too freaking low, man. Anyway, all good. Tragedy narrowly avoided. Oh, I just missed him for you. There's 2 or 3 deer up here. I could see their eyes with my light, but they just took off. They were coming to eat some tasty stuff out of my compost. It's very, very light yet, but we're starting to see the first little hints of that syrupy color. All right, I'm shutting her down for the evening, and this is a little bit of a delicate operation when there's so little sap in the pan, first, and second, I haven't done it in a year, so basically I'm gonna open this tap. Oh yeah, there's very little in there. Normally that would be running out if it was full, but then I gotta tilt this pan up and get it off the heat very quickly before the sap burns. So check out this power move. Gonna get that free. This is why I have fire gloves on, because everything is really hot. There we go. And I have to get this out of here really quick because the stuff on the back will caramelize and burn really, really fast. And obviously I can't leave a dry pan on there. There's still a ton of heat from the coals on the last boil here. But it's all going good so far. That backhand is getting really hot. Hold on. And she's coming out good. And it's just too awkward to take the whole pan off. It's like, it's a big, heavy thing. It's not that it's heavy, it's just big and hot and nowhere to put it. And wouldn't make sense otherwise. So as long as I keep that up off the heat, it should go pretty good. Yeah, it's going really good actually. And then that'll come in to the porch on blocks overnight because this pot is gonna get really, really hot too. And rinse and repeat tomorrow. Looking good. Okay, we're good there. The valve's closed. Oh, that's so nice and warm. Throw the lid on, bring her inside, and it's bedtime. It's frickin' late, man. But I got a late start. That was a good little start. I'm happy with that. and I actually decided to bring her into the kitchen tonight. I'll leave it out on the porch when it gets a little warmer, but for now, it makes it a lot easier to like heat it up in the morning when I get it going again. Oh no, next morning, and you can see I forgot to put blocks on this. God damn it. Hope it didn't wreck my tarp. But now I put these big rocks on there. She's not gonna go over now. Whew. Okay, we're back in business. All right, tragedy narrowly avoided. Let's get some sap in this pan and get a fire going. We're on the boil, day 2. But first things first, I gotta clean this thing out a little bit, and I've got a really good tip for those of you who are homesteading or aspiring to, and who are gardeners, okay? Now you can see I've got a bunch of really good coals left from last night. When you have charcoal like that, that's in that form, I'm gonna crush that down a little bit. It holds on to nutrients in a way that soil just can't, and is so good for your garden. You see that stuff? You got to crush it down a little bit, which I'm going to do. I'll show you that in a minute. Or probably not in this video. I'll show you that in a different video. But I'm going to use that resource for my garden, and this is a huge part of self-sufficiency. You're always trying to cycle nutrients and resources throughout the property in whatever ways that you can. So if I've got some good material for biochar from here, I'm not just going to burn it up. I'm actually going to start this fire from scratch and make new stuff for my compost beds and for my garden tomorrow and use it rather than, I could have just taken those hot coals, thrown some kindling on there, started that fire up quick. I'm going to put in the extra effort because now I can cycle this biochar into a different area of the property where it's going to be beneficial to my garden, and I'm not wasting it. And speaking of the garden, look at that. I just popped over and grabbed some old lemongrass that I left in the ground. It smells amazing. This fire that when I started is going to smell so good. I could almost use that for cooking. But anyway, I got some nice lemongrass to start that. Some hemlock twigs from under a big old hemlock tree. And that's going to be all I put on for now. Maybe just a couple of these in case it takes. But I got to get my pan on there now before this thing actually starts to burn, because I don't want to run it dry. I was telling you about that yesterday. That is a big no-no. So let's set this little sumbitch up, get her good, and I'll throw a flame on that if I need to in a second. But the main thing is just to get that pushed in, dialed in, and get some sap in this little sumbitch. Well, and that's good to see. In my sap receptacle right there, there's still some ice floating from last night, so that's a good sign. All right, that's a good start there. That's enough to not burn the pan. Let's get that fire going. So speaking of cycling resources around the property, if you've been following along on my Instagram, you might already know I've been experiencing brutal flooding in my basement all spring so far. So rather than taking water out of my well, why would I do that when I'm already pumping a ton of groundwater out of my damn basement? I'm gonna cool all of this biochar, or these hot coals that are way too hot to just put in there. I could burn the forest down if I mess with this. I'm gonna cool them with that groundwater out of my basement. So I'm gonna chuck them in this thing, this metal bucket, and you can see the smoke coming off there. And let's just make sure that those get thoroughly soaked through and put out before they head up into the compost. And I'll show you this in a second. I'm gonna smoosh all this down, and that's gonna make some really, really nice stuff to hold nutrients in my raised beds. Now I'm just gonna smash that stuff up a little bit, get some surface area on this stuff. That's what it's all about with this kind of thing, with biochar. Smash that stuff down, and that's fertilizer, baby. All right, just stoked her up. We're a couple hours later here. Got a good bunch of water boiled off that, but it's a good time to skim her while I can see what's going on. This thing's rolling out of boil so hard right now. It's hard to actually see what's going on in there, but right now I can see all these little bits of leaves and stuff. And I want to get all that shit out. And just want to show you this. It's plus, I think it's like plus 4 or 5, maybe even high of 6 today. And it's heating up so much faster than last night. This is just kind of a thing you should know. You know, when you're in freezing temperatures, you got to fight it to keep this thing at temperature so it keeps boiling and keeps evaporating. But, you know, as soon as you get above 0, even though the fire's not particularly roaring or anything, I just stoked it. It's just starting to take. She's going good. Look how warm it is outside. I'm literally like drying laundry and stuff. This is wicked. In case you're not from around here or, you know, the northern climes, this kind of thing, hanging laundry outside to dry, only happens about 6 months a year if you're lucky. The rest of the time, it just freezes. All right, that fire is rocking and it's evaporating fast. I need to put the rest of this guy in here, and that's good news. That's like, yeah, over 80 liters, I would say, or just maybe just around 80 liters in just this morning. So that's good. Again, goes to show you those plus temperatures really do make a big difference on boil time. All right, night has fallen, fire's ripping, boiling away, tons of evaporation happening. But you remember all that nice weather that happened for a few hours today? Well, that was short-lived. It's puke and snow down. We're supposed to get 15 or 20 centimeters overnight. Remember all that laundry that was on the line? Yeah, that's all inside. And now we're bracing for serious weather again. But with any luck, and if the winds stay low, the boil rig will prevail. But first things first, I've got some collecting to do. I didn't want to bother firing up my quad and everything. This receptacle here, oh yeah, which is right full, is the one that most needs collecting. And it's not that far, but I got to start boiling this one down. Man, that snow is coming down, but I got to start boiling this sap. And quick. Because this particular receptacle does really well, because all the trees are south facing, but the receptacle itself, like this giant container, is also sitting in the sun. So I have to get to this one first. The sap is really cold. I can feel it on my hand there. But it'll be the first to go, so I got to deal with it. I'm going to fill up one more. And these 2 buckets here, for those of you keeping score at home, that'll be a whole liter of finished sap pretty much when I'm done. So, you know, a few liters at a time. It's a game of inches, man, this maple syrup making, if you've never seen it before. It really is like a long game, dude. It's days and days and days of this. And look, she's still dripping good. That's gonna slow right down and stop overnight because it's getting cold again. But I like to see that, man. We're getting sugar. And look at that lid. In just the time it took me to get those 2 buckets, that's like 1/4 inch of snow or something already. Jesus. And here's what a smart guy would do. I would collect what I need for the night and then some, and that's exactly what's gonna happen. Yeah, when I started to think about it, this one here is gonna be a lot harder to collect from tomorrow, so I might as well just see where we're at. Oh man, I should have taken a few more out of here. It is right full up to the brim. I'm probably gonna have to come back and grab a few out of here. Look at that. It's spilling when I put the pot in. That's how full it is. All right, drop those 2 off at the evaporation station. I'm just gonna take one more out of there, and I think that one will be good till tomorrow or the next day. Now, just before I stoke the fire, I have learned that if I don't take care of the snow on this tarp and learn the hard way, bad things happen. Imagine that whole thing collapsing from the weight of that snow. Well, it's happened before. Burned a big hole in it, and then I didn't have a tarp in the middle of a storm to boil in. So, I'm getting under there. I'm gonna start getting off what I can get off. Oh, I lost my hat. Let's see. Better. Much better. Man, that does not bode particularly well for tonight's boil. That's a couple inches of snow in not much more than half an hour. It's crazy, dude. Meanwhile, in Canada, that is a lot of snow in like literally 25 minutes, half an hour. Look at that. That's crazy, man. Come on. It is what it is, man. Ride or die. And we're stoking. I can't even find my gloves. They got buried in snow in 20 minutes. They're here, right here somewhere. But I'm just gonna risk it here. This is how I burn my hands constantly. It's because everything is so hot. But God damn it, I'm covered in snow. But hey, you gotta do what you gotta do, man. Ride or die. Oh, come on! Look at this. This is just in the time that it took me to stoke that fire. Dude, give me a break, man. All right, friends, many hours later, you can see she's just frickin' rocking. And I haven't really been checking in with you. I've been in and out a bunch of times, stoking and adding sap as one does. And it's getting real late. I'm about to shut her down, but we've been doing really good today. So for my little rig, the amount of sap I've put through it is about 180 liters that I'm just about finished boiling down. Getting close to syrup. That plus what I did yesterday is probably just about 6 finished liters, maybe a little bit more. Look at her just freaking creaming, dude. That is some hardcore evaporation. That's what I like to see right there. And it's time to shut her down for the night. Here's the power move. Got to be careful here. Let's go. Okay. Let it run on its own for a second. And then as soon as that starts getting low, we got to tilt that thing. Here we go. Need to get flow here, buddy. And I'm hoping that's all going to fit. It's going to be tight, but it's going to make it, I think. Man, that smells so good. Oh my God, that's why you do it. It's just that smell, man. Beautiful. I was just brushing my teeth before bed and found all this good stuff here. Seasonal hazard, I guess, ash face. She's lit. I gotta get some sap in it quick. Oh, it's frozen. Look at this. Some will come out. I'll figure that out in a second. Oh, that was funny. And they're off. All right, 60 more liters down. She's looking good. She's freaking creaming, dude. Look at that evaporation. Both of my overnight storage receptacles, those big pots, are occupied. So what I think I'm gonna do is drop those two into here and try and get that down into a spot where they can all fit. All right, here's that giant pot from yesterday. This is almost 180 liters boiled down into this. So that's pretty near finished, and it's already room temperature, so it's not going to cool this down a bunch. Again, the point here is to get this down into like a usable amount of area. I maybe should have left that scummy stuff at the bottom, but whatever. You can see how much darker that is. I'm going to let that go for a minute, and then I'm going to go get the other one. Hold on, let me turn off my headlamp. I want to make a really important point here. If you're new at this, when you're doing stuff like this, or just as the sap gets darker and darker, it means that that sugar content is getting higher and higher. And when the sugar content is high, it boils a lot faster. Okay, that's really, really important to note. So I'm gonna have to keep a particularly close eye on this batch here, especially when I add the second one, because more sugar content means there's less water in it, and it's just gonna boil faster and faster and harder, and it's really easy to boil this thing over and wreck the whole batch that you've been working on. Now this batch I've been working on for 3 days, right? So it's a risk, but I need to do it. I don't have anywhere else to store it overnight. All right, it's been about an hour, and that's gone down pretty significantly, over an inch anyway. Here's that other pot. Okay, and that one's really close too. And then I'll check back in a bit. And I'm even gonna put a little cold sap in to make sure this doesn't boil over and go hog wild. And actually it needs a little strain while I'm here. I see some scum on top I don't like. All right, about another hour has gone by and this is getting really dark. 219 is approaching. If you don't know, 219 degrees is the point where it becomes syrup, where that temperature indicates the viscosity. And there are other ways of measuring it by sugar content, etc. But the layman's way of doing it is 219. So I'm going to stick a thermometer in there. All right, and there's that little alarm. You can see the outside temperature is just below freezing. I have it in Fahrenheit just because I learned this in Fahrenheit, 219. I don't do it in Celsius, just it's a crazy old habit. But anyway, you can see it's got a probe on it, and I'm just gonna drop that right into the syrup, and it's gonna give me a very accurate reading of the temperature of that syrup. So here goes nothing. I'm gonna drop that probe in, okay? And very quickly, it's gonna tell me where that is. Hold on, let me zoom in for you. And we're at about, well, it's gonna keep climbing. We're at 210 right now. But we're getting very close. Look, it's already rising. 214. Oh, 217. Wait a second. We're right on the edge. You know what? I'm thinking I'm going to drain that, man. We're getting very, very close to syrup. And I don't like finishing it in there. I finish it indoors. All right. Well, this bit is always a little bit precarious and sketchy. It's time to drain her. Let's go. Look at how dark and perfect that is, buddy. That's what I want to be seeing. Am I right? Okay, now I'm sure that I can fit the rest in the big one quickly before the rest of that burns. Just put the rest in there and we should be all right, dude. Oh, that's so freaking hot, dude. Look at my glove. It's freaking steaming. Okay, that was perfect. I have to say, to pat myself on the back, that was well executed. There we go. Back. And we're out of here for the night. Little one's on the stove, and check out this big boy. Woo! That's a lot of syrup, man. That's almost syrup, believe it or not. And hey folks, it's been about a week since I checked in on this video. I'm back on the boil, and that first batch that I started, I haven't even finished it yet. I haven't made it into syrup or sugar or whatever I'm doing with it yet. I'm toying with the idea of maybe doing all of my syrup or sugar together after I finish this big batch here. So we'll see what happens, but for the moment, the trees are still running. I don't think it's gonna last that much longer, but for the moment, the sap is flowing and we're boiling. And it's go time. Can you tell I'm tired? I'm literally wearing pajamas. It's time to go to bed. Rock. All right, that's what I can do, buddy. I gotta pull this. ASAP. I'm gonna have to put this. Oh, all right, buddy. All right. It's cool, Daddy-O. Oh, I'm glad that brick didn't fall right in. That would have sucked. Oh, that's hot. This is a major fuck up, but I think I can fix it right now. We got that guy. All right. There's two, and I'm gonna need like another cup. God damn it, I don't have anything right here. I gotta go inside. Can I interest you in a nice hot cup of almost syrup? And that's where those are going to stay for the night. We've got like colder than refrigerator temperatures out here. I'm not too worried about reheating it up, but it's just not going to freeze. That's the main thing. That's why I always bring it in. at night is because it often freezes, and then it's just a whole process. It's extra energy to get it to go again. But I'll bring that little cup in. Those have lids on. And then, you know, it's not going to get ashes from the fire in it. It's not going to get rained on. Even though we're under the tarp, it is going to rain overnight. So it'll all be cool in there. And that little cup will come in with me. And I'm so freaking tired, I got to go to bed. Beautiful sunny day. I think it's going to be my last boil of the season. I mostly emptied this one out already. I didn't show you, but that's coming out. This is getting dragged over. We're boiling down the last of that cloudy sap. And that tells you it's time. When you see the sap starting to get cloudy like that, when it stops running clear, and if there wasn't a lid on this, this would be full of bugs. You know the season is over and it's time to frickin' boil it off and be done with it. I'm pulling taps today. The sap runneth no more. Oh, there's my helper. Who's helping his dad? Is it the basement boy? Good boy. Look out, buddy. Big receptacle number 2 here, and look at all the flies in there. Somehow they managed to get in there, and this is what happens. I'm surprised it's not full of moths and stuff, but looking pretty gnarly in there. Sap's getting pretty cloudy. Not running. Look at, it's over. And man, these things are gonna need a good cleaning. Look at, there's flies on there. It's disgusting. They're getting all moldy and shit. Nasty. And you can see over here, we're just getting her up to temp. It's a beautiful sunny day. That should warm up quick. This guy's already empty. Took, I don't know, 15 liters out of there and topped her up. So that's our first 20. I've got another 40 collected. I've got another, let's see in here. Yeah, probably 25, 30 liters in there. And then the rest of what's left, we're done. In my head, syrup's already over, but I got to deal with the sap that I got. So this cloudy stuff, quick note on that. It's not actually great for making syrup. You could make like a pretty low grade, like C grade syrup out of it. I make sugar out of that cloudy stuff because, you know, you're boiling off all that bacteria that makes that cloudy stuff for hours and hours and hours. There's no problems. There's no like worry about contaminants or bacteria or any fungal activity or anything. You just boil that shit right off. And then you're boiling out every last little drop of liquid as well, so nothing can exist in it. No off flavors hang on, and then you have just great, delicious maple sugar. Oh man, we got bugs in here. All right, now I just got the last few buckets to grab off these trees, and that's pretty much it. You can see the trees have mostly stopped running. It's really warmed up. The nights just aren't cold anymore. That exchange is not happening in the cambium layer of these trees. Look at that tiny little bit in there. It's probably full of bugs. Let's have a look. But these are all coming down. Oh, and that's freaking gnarly, dude. I don't even know if that's enough sap to bother with, but those things are freaking alive, man. And let's just have a quick look at this one here, which is much fuller. Hey, and not too bad, hey. There's just a few. There's just like that guy. Okay, you can go to safety, my friend. Yeah, not too bad. One little dude. Anyway, I'll straighten that out. Gone. Gonzo. Sayonara, sucker. Bye. Later, dudes. Au revoir. Ciao, Bella. Sniff you jerks later. All right, it is many, many, many hours later, like literally 10 hours later. There's no sap left. Every single last little bit has been boiled off. I'm about to drain this guy. I'm giving it a few more minutes. It's like 2:30 in the morning. I'm gonna let that go down just a little bit more, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. Let's go into the pot, and then we got a huge finishing session coming up. But it's all looking real good, man. That's some sweet, sweet sugar in there. Easy, this is awesome.
And man, it really comes down a lot quicker than it goes up, I'll tell you that.
And that's another year. Short but sweet.
Friends, thanks for hanging out all the way to the end of the video. If you've never seen this process before, I hope you learned something new. I hope you found it interesting, and I hope you understand why this stuff is so damn expensive in the grocery store. It's so much time and effort. Anyway, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Chuck a like on this video if you did enjoy it, and stay tuned next week where I'm going to show you how I finish this syrup.